Don't believe anything I say. In fact, don't believe anything you say. Why am I saying that? Okay, because what I do want you to believe is the facts. I want you to believe what actually happens scientifically. Okay, and this is the science behind it. And more specifically, we're talking about the science behind your words. Words that have power, words that influence, words that make you feel either good or bad. So let me ask you this. Have you got a little voice inside your head? Have you got a voice that says occasionally negative things to you? I did for many, many years, and it proved very effectively to keep me feeling miserable. Okay, I would have this voice that kept on saying sentences such as, Danielle, you are this, Danielle, you are that, Danielle, you are the other, and I kept on feeling really bad. So it was very effective, right? Okay, it was just unfortunately effective in an unbeneficial way. So, how does it work scientifically? They did studies on this where, okay, we put you inside an MRI machine. Okay, you know, the machine which would kind of test your brain waves and what's going on inside your brain. And they would ask somebody to simply have a thought and say a sentence that they'd never ever said before. So if I was to ask you to say a sentence such as this, the pink elephant skipped down the road with the yellow polka dot umbrella drinking a frappuccino. Okay. Now, highly likely that you have probably never ever said that sentence or thought that sentence before. So, what do you think is happening inside your brain? So, if we had you hooked up to an MRI machine now, we would be able to see that inside your brain, this lovely little faint little neural pathway is being formed. Okay, and this neural pathway is where all your thoughts and all your words start to come from. Okay, so we have a physical brain, and we also have a neurological brain. And what we're talking about here is very much the neurological brain. Your neurological brain is full of all these wonderful little sparks of electricity going through your brain, which we call neural pathways. You may have seen pictures of it. Maybe you've seen a photo of a brain with all these like little electric currents, not the sultana types, just the currents, okay, shooting through your brain. Now, what happens is every time that you have a thought and you create a new thought, this little neural pathway goes shooting across your brain, but it's really, really faint. Now, what's interesting is the more, and this was studied with these machines, the more you have a thought, guess what? That pathway becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. The more that you say the thought out loud, the stronger it becomes again. So, this is interesting because maybe you have had the experience, which I would imagine you probably have, just like me, that you have been feeling bad about something. Maybe you were upset because you had a fight with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parent, your mother, your father, your best friend, and you felt very sad. And you went along and somebody seen you and they said, "Oh my God, what's up? You're feeling really bad. I can see there's something not right. Tell me about it." And the moment you go to speak, you start to cry. Okay, or you start to feel more emotion. Why is that? Why did you start to feel more emotion the moment that you went to speak about it? The reason is scientifically, the reason is because your words have power. Your words have huge, huge power. So, in other words, your words reverberate inside your brain and give it more significance. So, what happens is when you have a thought, a little neural pathway shoots through your brain. The more you have that thought, the stronger that neural pathway becomes. When you speak out loud that thought, then that neural pathway becomes even stronger. And here is the really interesting information. The bigger and stronger the pathway, the stronger your corresponding emotion. Think about it. So let's say you say something to yourself like, "I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too ugly. I'm too stupid. I'll always be alone. I'll never have love. I'll never make anything with my life. I'll never be a success. I'm always going to be a failure. Okay, let's say you say something like that, which I did many, many times in the past. Okay, what do you think is going to happen? If you say it once, a little shoot of electricity of a neural pathway comes along. If you say it more and more often, and you're saying it all the time, one, that little neural pathway is getting thicker and stronger, and hence so is the corresponding emotion. And two, remember from my previous videos, your brain wants to prove you right. So it's going to continue to look for evidence to prove what you said is correct. So the pathway, it's an everlasting circle. The pathway keeps getting stronger and stronger. But guess what? I have some wonderful news. Okay, you have also got something that's called neuroplasticity. Okay, neuroplasticity, which means that your brain, your neural brain is constantly changing, evolving, and is malleable. In other words, it's changing all the time. At every single moment, you have the power, just like that, to change those neural pathways. And guess how you do this? I'm going to give you an analogy. Let's say we were to walk outside into a field. And let's say you walked down one direction to the left of the field over and over and over through the grass. Eventually, guess what? You would wear a pathway, right? Okay, through that field. And the more you walked along that same pathway, the more clear and evident and the bigger that pathway would become, right? Just the same way as the more you say something inside your head and you say something out loud, the more it is reinforcing that pathway, and that pathway is becoming bigger and stronger. Let's say you decided one day, you know what, I'm going to go the opposite way, and you started going down to the right of the field, down to the right side. Okay, so you go down the right side of this field and you wear a path. Now, if you went along it once, what do you think would happen? If you walk down the pathway once and you might soften the grass, you might be able to see a little bit of indentation in the grass, but the pathway wouldn't be clear, right? So if you went looking for it a couple of months later, but you had gone back to your old path, that pathway just wouldn't be visible, right? And that's a little bit like the way people try to help themselves and to change things in themselves. They're used to an old pattern. They're used to doing things in a way that is not helpful for themselves, like they say something negative to themselves day in, day out. They continue to say something like they're not good enough. And then they hear something, that's maybe advice of how to help themselves. And they do it once. And they do something like practice gratitude or affirmations. And I'm going to explain to you how to do those. And then they simply stop. And they do it once, and then they say something like, oh, that's a waste of time. That's a load of rubbish. That's not going to work. Okay. And that won't work. Okay. So let me ask you, have you ever done that? Have you ever tried to do something once or twice and it didn't work? Okay. This is why, because if you go down that pathway over and over again and you've got a wonderful clear pathway that is not beneficial for you, and then you go down a different pathway once or twice, then obviously that's just going to grow over. But what if you actually just stopped going down that old pathway and you started going down this new pathway more and more and more and more? Guess what would happen then? That would be the automatic way. That would be more natural. That would be visible. That would be easier. And the old pathway would just start to grow over and disappear. Does that make sense? So it's exactly the same as what you can do in your life, in your pathways inside your brain. So some of these words and sentences that you say, you can change them. So I want to give you a couple of key words that I suggest that you eliminate from your vocabulary. Okay? These words are the word should and need. Okay? Those words are not beneficial for you. Think about it like this. When the teacher, when your parent, when somebody says to you something such as, you really need to do your homework. You really should start to study. You really, need to knuckle down and do the work. You really should start to do X, Y, or Z. How do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel motivated? Okay. You probably feel frustrated, irritated, and you kind of probably irritated by the person that said that to you. Okay, because it's not motivating. In fact, it's self sabotaging. It causes us to want to retract because none of us do what we should do, what we need to do. We all do what we want to do. Okay, isn't that right? We tend to do what we want to do. So, my suggestion to you is to do the following. When there is something that you know is going to be beneficial for you in your life. So, for example, let's say you want to study more. Okay, instead of saying, I really should knuckle down and start to study, how about you say to yourself, I really want to start to study? Do this now. Okay, if you want to pause this video in a moment to simply, do this exercise with me, what I want you to do is simply this. I want you to say this sentence inside your head. Think about something that you tend to procrastinate over, that you tend to put on the long finger, that you tend to kind of want to do more, but you don't do more of. So, and you tend to say sentences such as, I really should do X, Y, or Z, or I really need to do X, Y, or Z. So I want you to, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not motivated, 10 feeling really motivated to go and do it. I want you to say the sentence, I really should go and do blah, 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 X, Y, or Z. You can put in whatever that might be. So do that now. I really should do, and give it a score from 1 to 10 and see how you feel. So 1 is, I'm not motivated to go and do it. 10 is, I'm really excited to go and do it right now. Okay, now I am guessing, okay, that the score is probably going to be on the low side, that you're not feeling very motivated to go and do it. So what I want you to do now is I want you to do it again, but this time replace the word should or need with want. So in other words, you're going to say to yourself, I really want to do X, Y, or Z. Say that now. And this time, rate it from 1 to 10, 1 being not motivated, 10 being motivated, and give it a score. Now, my guess is that the score second time round, when you use the word want, is higher. So in other words, your brain heard the word want and perceives it as something that you want to do. So hence you're going to feel more motivated, more inspired, more excited to go do it. So those are words that are helpful for you. So the words should and need, cancel them out of your vocabulary unless you want to fail. Okay, they're self-sabotaging words. And also when you're talking to others, if you want to motivate somebody else, change the word should and need to the word want. Okay, makes sense, right? We do what we want to do. Okay, so that's a more motivating, more beneficial word. I mean, that is simply hypnotic, influential language. Now, talking about language, I said that I was going to explain to you a little bit about gratitudes and affirmations and how they are beneficial. I'm going to start with affirmations. An affirmation is simply a statement that you say to yourself as if the thing had happened. Now, a lot of people say affirmations, but in my opinion, they're not helping themselves because they make them so unrealistic. So you're in a negative state, so you don't feel good, and which in hence isn't going to help this exercise be effective. In other words, simply explained, if I feel negative in an unbeneficial state, when I say an affirmation, I am linking a negative state with that act that I'm speaking about, and hence I'm not going to be motivated or want to do it. So for example, let's say my affirmation was, I am a millionaire right now. Okay, and let's say that wasn't true. If I say I am a millionaire right now, there's a part of me that's thinking, well, hang on a second, I'm lying to myself here. I'm not really a millionaire, so why am I saying this to myself? Okay, but what if I said to myself, I am becoming a millionaire right now? Now, that is easier, that's more credible, and that's more congruent with how I'm feeling. So hence I can believe it and I can feel it and can feel excited about it. So it works well. Okay, so it's more effective. If we link a negative feeling, we're not going to want to continue it. So I wanted you to think about an affirmation that you can use in your life right now that would be beneficial for your life. So maybe you're feeling lonely. Maybe you're feeling sad. Maybe you're feeling depressed right now. Okay, so if you are, maybe there's a sentence that can be credible, but it can also be more exciting and more motivating to you. So instead of saying, say you're feeling lonely, instead of saying something that is too far ahead, like I am now surrounded by hundreds of people that make me feel really loved. Maybe that's too much right now. Okay, maybe that's not totally credible yet, but maybe you could say something such as, I am I am more open to receiving love and friendship every single day, with every breath that I take. So that's more credible, right? And that is something that you can feel good about. And that leads you into a better direction and into a better space and a better feeling. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's what I would suggest in an affirmation for you to do right now. And I would suggest that you do that about minimum 3 times every morning and every evening when you're looking into the mirror. Say an affirmation like that and repeat it in a very good state. Remember, it's really important that you're in a good state to do this, because otherwise you're linking a negative state with the act of doing and you will not want to continue it. So the more you do this in a good state, the more you continue it, the more beneficial this is going to be for your life. Another wonderful language and wonderful way that you can use words to benefit your life is an exercise that I'm going to end this video with, which is what I call a wonderful morning and evening gratitude routine. Now, gratitude is not something that's wishy-washy. Gratitude is something that is scientific and very psychologically based. At nighttime, what I suggest that you do is, before you go to bed at night, say 3 things that you are grateful for that day. Just simply say, I'm grateful today for the food that I ate. I'm grateful today for being able to walk. I'm grateful for today for the fact that I was able to have a roof over my head. Okay, simply 3 things just like that. And that means that when you go to sleep, you're going to sleep in a good state, because when you're going into your subconscious mind when you sleep, that is the most important time for your brain to process information. And when you're going into sleep, into that good, grateful state, you're programming a better state for your life and a better state for when you wake up. Now, when you wake up, and this is the really special part, okay, is what you're going to do is you're going to write down 3 things that you're going to be grateful for that day. Okay, so you might do something such as, I am grateful today for the people I'm going to meet. I'm grateful today for what I'm about to learn. I'm grateful today for the experience I'm about to have. Okay, now what that does is it sets your mind for the direction for it to follow. It sets your mind, and your mind will want to follow that direction and to look out for it and to spot it. Remember, your mind has got to do what you've asked for it to do, because it's simply a wonderful computer, right? Okay, you remember that, yes? So your mind is going to want to follow its orders, and it's going to start looking for opportunities for you, these opportunities that you've asked for. So it's a wonderful, wonderful exercise. Remember, your words have power. Okay, you can use your words beneficially or to your detriment. I highly suggest that you start to challenge your old way of using words that is not causing you happiness. So the next time that you notice yourself saying something that is not beneficial to you, so the next time that you say something such as, I'm not good enough, or I can never do that, or I'm always going to be alone, or whatever it might be that you say, okay, notice it. Now, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to congratulate yourself for having noticed, because that means you're becoming aware, and awareness takes most of its power away. Okay, so congratulate yourself for having noticed, and then challenge that thought. Challenge that thought, because remember, okay, those thoughts are not real. It's simply old programming. So I want you to change that programming. Okay, challenge it. Ask yourself, how can I be 100% sure that this is true? Now, if you find yourself saying to yourself it's something from your past, okay, like such as, oh, because it happened before, that does not mean it's going to happen again. There's a story about a little elephant, okay, and that was captured, and he was tied against a pole, okay, a little tree. And he pulled and he pulled and he pulled against that tree. And eventually, guess what he did? He gave up. He gave up pulling. Okay. And the next day, they brought him to the same little tree and they tied him there again. And the next day, and the next day. And the little elephant never pulled because on the first day he tried so much that he'd given up. So the years went on and the elephant grew into a big elephant. And like there he was a big, huge elephant. And they still brought him and tied him every day to that little tiny tree that was now a little tiny twig. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think he could have broken that twig, that little tree? Of course he could, but he didn't. Why? Because he thought he couldn't. He didn't think he could. Why didn't he think he could? Because he'd tried before. In his past, he had experienced attempting it and failing, so he thought that he couldn't do it again. And that's the same with all of us. We all tend to be programmed and base our beliefs on something that's happened in the past, but that is simply an illusion. The truth is that elephant could break free. He can, and so can you. I challenge you today to challenge those thoughts and those words and start to use your words in an extremely more beneficial and powerful way, and you too can break free just like that elephant.